They say defense wins championships, and UCF is signing defensive guys like their life depends on it.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every day and for making Locked On the #1 podcast network in the world, in the universe. We are bringing hot fire every single episode. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about more portal signings, UCF bolstering the defense, James. So this is shaping up pretty well here. Lots of guys I think to get excited about. We're going to talk about those guys on each segment today. Today's show is brought to you by our title sponsor, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, get in on the action with FanDuel. I know that the college football national championship is almost here, and you want to watch a little something on the line with FanDuel. They've got some special things going on there, including their profit boost. We'll talk about that at the break. Let's jump into our conversation here. Jahleel Culbreath is a UCF Knight. James, a very productive linebacker from Old Dominion, committed to UCF from the portal. Look, man, he's got 1 year of eligibility left, so possibly kind of like a bridge guy on defense, but somebody they think that can come in and add immediate impact from the Sun Belt. Something that we're going to say every single show to get fans accustomed to this. With what happened last year, UCF is in a position where they've got to find diamonds in the rough. They've got to find guys who are not going to be coming from flashy programs necessarily, but have the ability to come in and contribute immediately and maybe have their best year of football with UCF in 2026. These guys think that Jahleel Culbreath is one of those guys who can come in and have his best year of football in 2026, but for UCF in the Big 12. Talk to me about Jahleel Culbreath and what you like about him. 6'4", 225, ready to hit somebody, man.
Yeah, no, I think Jahleel Culbreath is exactly what you want to see out of the portal. Very much a production type of guy. I like Scott Frost's, kind of strategy towards the portal. It's more guys where you're getting production over potential. You want proven guys that have proven they can play at the G5 or FCS or whatever level. They can usually do it at the next level, of Power 5 as well. Last year started all 13 games for Old Dominion, fourth on the team with a career high with 71 tackles. He had 9 tackles for loss and 3 sacks at linebacker is pretty good. He pretty much killed it last year. And, I think it's interesting when you look at like what the top 2 linebackers were last year for UCF, guys mentioning like Lewis Carter and Cole Kozlowski, with the Patterson case ending the way that it did today and the eligibility rules now being what they are or likely will be. Kozlowski is not going to be able to return for another year. So you needed to go out and find a replacement for him. You get Lewis Carter back, and Lewis Carter and Kozlowski both successful, but different strategies from the portal. Lewis Carter was kind of a potential guy that came from a Power 5 school. He came from Oklahoma, didn't have crazy numbers, comes over and makes a huge impact. Kozlowski, on the other hand, came from Colgate, and he was a big producer at Colgate and then came and made a big impact at UCF. So you can succeed either way you go, but it's about identifying the right talent. And I think that from the portal signings from last year, you can tell that they have been able to find talent. All that last year really lacked was a quarterback and an offensive line. And I think that team would have probably won 8 or 9 games. Their defense was phenomenal, and they're going to add to it now with Jahleel Culbreath. Like you said, tall, heavy. If you look up this guy online, you'll see some pretty nasty hits from his time at Old Dominion. So I'm very excited about this guy. He's not really a lurker in terms of, interceptions or pass breakups, but he is definitely a guy that is going to hit hard.
Yeah, look, a look at the numbers. He's had productivity everywhere he's gone. I don't imagine that that's going to be a difference at UCF. he's going to get after it, and they're going to know how to use him here. Like, so he started all 13 games at Old Dominion, 3 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss, 71 total tackles, 26 solo. So he had 24 career starts. And that's solid. That's solid on field, actual experience. And there's a dynamic happening here with the portal and these guys coming in from the portal and the young guys coming in from high school. A lot of guys from high school still want to play now. They want to play their freshman year. They don't want to sit the bench. Man, they don't want to hang back. They want to be out there. And it's tough when you have these guys that come in with real playing experience. So while you might be extremely talented, I mean, a lot of these freshmen having to take a back seat to these experienced transfers that are coming in from other programs. And if you're Scott Frost, you've got to balance, making sure you keep your young guys engaged versus playing the experienced player and getting the best guy on the field that can help you win now, because this is a win now environment in college football with the portal. People are not giving you 3-4 years to turn it around anymore. If by year 2 you are not clearly headed in the right direction, year 3 you're going to be on a hot seat.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's almost become this sense of like you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward for some of these athletes. We had some pretty notable guys in the past couple classes that have all really, once they left here, took a step down. Now, I don't think that's the case with a guy like John Walker or Dalton Riggs, who, both those guys went to Ohio State. Walt Claire Flynn last year went to Georgia. And so I don't think those are the cases that I'm talking about, but I think for the vast majority of guys transferring out of UCF, they're all going to G5 programs or P5 programs that are struggling even more than UCF. We've had a bunch of guys go to Purdue. We've had a lot of guys go to ETSU and Kennesaw State and North Texas. And, North Texas isn't necessarily struggling, but, they are G5 programs. They are lower in terms of the competition that they play. And I think that is almost the route that players are deciding to go, because they're seeing people replacing them in their jobs that are coming from those schools, that are coming from G5 schools. And they're saying, okay, well, if that's what I have to do, if I have to go prove that I'm talented at a G5, then I will go prove I'm talented to a G5 so that I can come back to a P5.
Yeah, look, I hear you. And I think all of this can be a good thing as long as your program has the right coach and he knows how to sift through it all and get the best guys on the field. A lot of these guys, they have to trust the coach when the coach says wait. They've got to trust the coach when the coach says, hey, change positions. You'll have a longer career. You'll be more successful here. Trust is such a big factor in this equation for a lot of these guys who are transferring in. Clearly, Jahleel Culbreath heard something from Scott Frost and Alex Grinch that he really liked. He's choosing UCF. A lot of guys are going to follow suit here, but they've got to have production. They've got to have production in 2026, and we'll see how that turns out. Jahleel Culbreath is a UCF Knight, but he's not the only one. We're going to talk about more additions on defense right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The college football playoff is here, and the college football championship game is right around the corner. And FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game of the playoffs. Right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what we love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team is in control of the matchup. Take a shot on an underdog if you feel like an upset is coming, or build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. I'm sure there will be plenty of moments in this national championship we all think are going to decide the game. Are you willing to bet on it? You should be, just with FanDuel. Then you apply the profit boost and go after even bigger wins. When you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for the national championship game. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long and beyond. So visit FanDuel.com and get your college football playoff profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Brad Gurley is a UCF Knight. first of all, Brad Gurley is a great name for a defensive guy. It just sounds like a dude who's going to maul you as soon as he sees you. Brad Gurley joins Alex Grinch's defense. He stands 6'3", almost 300 pounds on the defensive line. He transfers in from Eastern Kentucky. Look, man, he again, another experienced guy coming in here. 15 tackles, 1 sack, two tackles for a loss in 12 games during the 2024 season. This is a productive guy, right? I think he's a prototypical rotation piece at the power 4 level. Talk to me about Brad Gurley and how he adds to the UCF defense potentially in 2026.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a guy that comes in with quite a bit of production, at least just from this past year. He redshirted his first year at EKU in 2022, and then only played 1 game in 2023. In 2024, he played 12 games, and last year I think he played a multitude of games. This guy has a lot of production under his belt from the last 2 years, and he comes in with 2 years of eligibility, which is kind of better than, I would say, a 1-year bridge guy, because the guys that are in that position right now, in RJ Jackson and who just announced that they were coming back. Why can't I think of his name? Who is right? Oh, Horace Lockett. Horace Lockett. Yeah. Horace Lockett. Oh my gosh. That's like our guy. I can't believe I forgot that. We were pumped when he came back. When you have those 2 guys coming back, you need someone to kind of learn from under them that also has a lot of potential, but still has multiple years of eligibility. So that's a guy that's coming in that is probably going to play Rodney Laura amount of snaps, be a reliever, but is also pushing to be just as talented as those 2 guys in front of him. So I think it's a big addition to your defensive line, something that we thought was going to be really, really good coming back. And then we lost half of or like 80% of our defensive line. So now Frost is out there in the portal, kind of trying to grab these guys up. And I think Kenny Martin's doing a really, really good job out there.
Kenny Martin is my favorite assistant coach.
Yeah, I would have to.
Yeah, Kenny Martin is a baller. He is a coaching baller. And his guys balled last year, and I think they're going to ball in 2026. I like the comparison to Rodney Laura and how he'll be used. You want to rotate a ton of guys on defensive line to stay fresh, man, for the fourth quarter. And it's, again, we talked about this earlier this week. This is going to be a theme for UCF here, is practicing for the fourth quarter so you can finish games. We repeatedly have pointed to the 3 games we felt like if UCF knew how to finish, they probably win. And guys here like Brad Gurley are going to help you in that regard. So on defensive line, they credit him through his EKU stint with 5.5 sacks and a forced fumble. You want guys. I think he's an interior disruptor. I think he's a guy who can get in there and F stuff up, right, and make it difficult on offenses to get pushed there, and for running backs to get through to the second level. If you're a defensive lineman, that your job is to be in the backfield, causing havoc and protecting the second level for your linebackers so that they can flex a little bit and run around and make plays. But it starts up front on that defensive line. You've got to win the trenches in 2026, man. You can't get pushed around out there. They didn't get pushed around last year. The offensive line got pushed around. The defensive line flexed. They've got to continue to flex here. Talk to me a little bit more before we move on about how they rotate these guys and, how you continue to rotate, but let guys get in a groove, man. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, once you're on the field and you're productive, sometimes the rotations can throw you off a little bit. I think they did a good job last year, but I think Brad has to be, prepared for a high rotation going into this year.
Yeah, I think rotation is often depending on what your skills are at. Not all interior D linemen, not all defensive game. Some guys have different moves that work better for different situations. If you have a guy that's just absolutely killer in pass rush, like a guy like Sincere Edwards, you're going to use him in, second and third and long more than you're going to use him on 1st and 10. And if you have a guy that's as good at run blocking as John Walker was last year, then that guy's going to play more run blocking snaps in, run first situations. So a lot of times you see guys sub out really in situation based parts of the game. If there's a 2nd and 3, you want your heaviest run blocker or your heaviest run, stoppers out there, plugging up the gaps in between the tackles and the guards. And it's the same thing for edge rushers. So I think a lot of it's going to be like personnel and attribute based. If you have a guy, and I've yet to watch all of Brad Gurley's film, but from the film that I have watched, he actually has more speed than you would anticipate. He has really good running back tracking skills. And so there's a couple plays that I saw of him of these tackles for loss that he was getting where the guys were actually trying to create space and he was able to close that gap. And at almost 300 pounds, that's pretty baller. So you might want him for run stop. And he seems pretty agile at defensive tackle. So a lot of those rotations are going to be situation based. I'm interested to see how they use him. I think it's going to be similar to Rodney Moore.
Brad Gurley wasn't the only defensive lineman to commit recently. They got another one, and Josh Schell. We'll talk about him next right here on Locked On UCF. Josh Schell, you are a UCF Knight. He stands 6'4", 265 pounds. And will join the UCF. He played at Tennessee last year. So Josh Schell joining the UCF Knights here, man. Talk to me about this guy. They're stacking the defensive line, man. I mean, this is a lot of new pieces on a defensive line. But he had limited action at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Only 21 defensive snaps. So while he played at Tennessee, he was on the roster at Tennessee last year, right? And finished with 1 tackle. So hopefully we can put some zeros behind that one. And he finished with 100 tackles. But they see something here, maybe a developmental project, a guy. Talk to me about his stint at Tennessee and why they feel like he'll add something at UCF where there was really no production in Knoxville.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the production I'm not sure if he didn't take snaps because he just didn't crack the 2 deep over there, or if he was injured for part of the season.
He only played in 3 games.
Yeah,
Eastern Tennessee, UAB, and I think it was New Mexico State.
Yeah, like I said, I'd be interested in seeing if that was because of injury or not. If it was because of injury, that's kind of a better situation for him because he'd be able to earn his medical. He already took his regular red shirt in 2022 when he played at Grand Valley State. So speaking of Grand Valley State, his time at Grand Valley State was probably his biggest time in terms of production.
For sure.
As a redshirt freshman, as a redshirt freshman, he had 11 tackles in just 8 games. Had a pass breakup, a couple others. So I think that if you're looking at production, you're going to have to go back to 2024 in terms of his stats at Grand Valley State. But in terms of years of eligibility, he could have probably up to 2. Depending on if he earns that medical. Like I said, I don't know if he had an injury at Tennessee. If he didn't have an injury,
I'm not seeing anything. Like I looked, I didn't see anything listed. Nobody talked about injuries last year for him. So I don't think he was hurt.
Yeah, if he was not hurt, he's going to come in with 1 year of eligibility left because of his 2 playing years at Grand Valley State, and then that year at Tennessee will use up a year of eligibility. If I'm honest, this pick seemed like the odd man out.
Okay.
Of the group that Scott Frost got. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe in the kid, and I think that he's coming into a room where he's probably going to get a lot of opportunity to battle into snaps because of the mass exodus of guys that left that room, like including multiple freshmen / sophomores and multiple experienced guys. So you lost a lot of guys out of that room. So he's coming into a Power 5 situation where he's going to be able to compete for snaps. I have no doubt that if he gets, onto the field, that it will have been because there's just not a ton of guys in that room. And so he was able to find some snaps and battle for those. I really hope that he gets out on the field, and I hope that he kills it. But like I said, this kind of seemed like the odd man out in terms of defensive line pickups.
I agree with you. Look, it's not a splash transfer. It's a fit transfer, right? The coaches recruit what they can develop, not just flashy stats. So if they think that he's a guy that they can develop quickly, then you take him, and you see what you can do with him. Because as I mentioned, you want to rotate a ton of guys, but you want to be well padded for injuries to happen to key guys and have guys who can step in. Here's what again, something we talked about on a previous show this week. This is the type of guy who's going to be hungry to prove himself. And those guys are dangerous for other teams UCF is facing. Put a guy like Schell on the field who thinks, I have to play with desperate abandon this year because I didn't do anything last year. And while I played well at the D2 level, I got a shot in the SEC, didn't work out. Now I'm in the Big 12, and I've got a real opportunity here to get on the field and start to make my mark on college football. I got to do it quickly. Those dudes are the guys who come out of nowhere, who we weren't talking about at all in the spring, and then suddenly he leads the Big 12 in something. So I don't, there's a lot of these types of guys that we're going to be keeping an eye on this year, and it's really going to tell us how well of an eye Scott Frost and Alex Grinch have for some of these kids who came out of high school really talented. It hadn't worked out for them just like they would have hoped at the college level, but you're giving them the opportunity where hopefully this is the stop where it does work out.
And I think there's something to be said about a guy that played at the D2 level and then Tennessee comes calling.
Or they call him up for a reason.
Yeah, there's obviously some talent being seen. And once again, I trust the eye of Coach Kenny Martin. Like, I trust the eye.
I'll tell you, he is a baller.
That guy knows how to find talent. And
he does, man.
And UCF has done a really, I praise whatever staff or whatever, hiring manager or GM or whatever, because he was on Gus's staff and he was one of the few guys that they retained. He might have actually been one of the only guys that they retained as a position coach. So I think obviously they saw talent and they saw his ability to go out and find and get talent and recruit talent. So like I said, if his film and his production pleases Kenny Martin's eyes, I'm all for it. Josh Schell to the ceiling. Like, put him on the field.
From the windows to the walls with Josh Schell. Look, I will never question Coach Kenny Martin on his picks. His room has played well. I think you could make an argument that his position group has been the best on the team, so far in the Scott Frost tenure. And they knows how to pick them. Will this be a guy who rises to the cream of the crop here in 2026 and in the Big 12? But at UCF, we will see. James Duncan, UCF sports commentator, I want to thank you for joining me on today's show to talk a little UCF football. We're going to go on and get out of here. But before we do, hit the comment section after the video. Let us know what you think about Jahleel Culbreath, Brad Gurley, and Schell. Do you see these guys becoming stars? We want to hear from you. And while you're at it, do us a favor. If you are not already subscribed, smash that subscribe button. We just hit 1,300 subscribers, James. We're on fire here. We want to hit 3,000 before the start of next season. We need your help. Tell a friend. Hit that subscribe button. Like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate every single listen. Not take it for granted here. You could spend your time listening to anybody, but if you choose to do it here at Locked On UCF, we will continue to give you the information and the energy and the education every single day. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow with even more Locked On UCF.